Okay. I just want to say something, too, about, this is what we do at Arteses. I know a lot of you have not come to Arteses. Join us. When you see that we're doing a Teze on a Wednesday night, this moment is what we do for a full hour with like 10 songs. It's just amazing. So, last week I asked everybody, and I said, how about taking the challenge with me to love only? So, how's the lovin' been going? One person. I tried it. It was fun. I went back to my normal routine. So really, how's it going? It's going really well for me. I'm having a great loving time. I'm loving everything and everyone, and I am quick to understand when I don't. I'm quick to notice when I don't, and if I'm not quick to notice it, Rita points it out. It works out really great. Rita is in Mexico right now visiting her grandchildren. New Mexico, the new one. With her grandchildren. So, in the concept of loving, love only, what kind of naturally progresses from that is forgiveness, isn't it? How can you love if you're holding on to something inside? How can you freely and openly love if you haven't forgiven whatever it is you need to forgive? How can let's go to the lyric. When I close my eyes and I see the storyboard, I was sitting next to Lacey, and as soon as he said, when I see the storyboard, Lacey went, oh. At least that's how I perceived it. Is that what you did? Sure. So, when you look at the storyboard of your life, what do you see? Do you see anything that maybe, perhaps, could use a little forgiveness? If not, just keep listening, see what comes up. But for most of us, if I look at the storyboard that is my life, I can see things that could use some forgiving in my own life. And I can definitely see people that need forgiving. And I know exactly what they need to be forgiven for. Because that seems to be what I'm holding tightly to. What they need to be forgiving for, not the forgiveness itself. And I love that Jamie says in his song, drawing out the shame of my life. Shame. Doug LeBeau, when he was taking Mental Muscle one of the first times, brought up a subject, an idea, which was shame spirals. How when you find shame in your life, it's literally an activating tool that literally takes you on a downward spiral. And that shame just keeps going down and down and down and down. And you know what? There seems to be no bottom to shame. Have you noticed that? Yeah. That bottomless shame spiral. So, familiar, I love this too, that he says, familiar with the comfort of my pain. How many of us are comfortable within our pain? Or comfortable within our shame? Or comfortable within those things we want to forgive about ourselves? Most of you know, since I had the surgery on my neck, there is this little bit of pain in my neck. Isn't that funny? It's just a pain in the neck. And recently I have begun talking to it and just saying, no, you don't belong here. You don't belong here. And then hours will go by before I notice it again. And then I just have to say to myself again, bless you, you don't belong here. No, you don't belong here. Pain is not the natural cause, is not the natural feeling in my life. But it's easy to believe that it is. I have a reason. I can show you the scar. I can tell you the situation. I can explain exactly why. It's logical that I feel what I feel. But I'm not interested anymore, those of you who are in CPR, in logic when it comes to relative conditions. I'm interested in spiritual logic. And the only spiritual logic behind the pain in my neck is that I've somehow bought into it, so stop buying it. I have a thing on my wall that says, if you're not being fed, don't go there to eat. Thought it was logical. So, and I love that he says, hell is a place for souls that have not found compassion for themselves. Hell is a place for souls that have not found compassion for themselves. Do you really think that there is anything you could have ever done that you need to hold on to and hate yourself for and not forgive yourself for? Do you really believe that there is anything at all that you have ever done that isn't worthy of being forgiven? Pull it out. Don't tell me about it. I don't need to see it. But pull it out. Bring it front and center and take a look at it. Get rid of all the facade that's around it. And then this beautiful line, forgive ourselves to become all that we are. So, I make breakfast for the kids this morning. You know, it's an interesting thing on Sundays now when I have the kids, and when I'm doing CPR. I have to be up, do CPR, make breakfast for them, make breakfast for me, get a shower, get them, make sure they get showered, keep rolling, pushing them along, and then get here on time. And today they were just breathtaking. They were ready way before I was. So I'm sitting having breakfast. Will was already done. He was playing a video game with Gareth. And Nora's sitting finishing her breakfast, and I'm eating mine. And Nora said, what are you going to talk about today? And I said, I'm actually going to talk about forgiveness. And she says to me, she said, oh, did you get that because of the movie last night? And I said, no, I've been thinking about this all week. I said, but why? What about the movie? She said, well, we went to see 42 last night, the Jackie Robinson story. And how many of you saw it yet? Oh, my God. I just had a lump in my throat the entire movie. And I'm not particularly a baseball fan. But I was literally, Will and Nora, when we left the theater, Will said, Dad, you really have to stop doing that in movies. And I said, what are you talking about? And he went, Now, I will be honest, and I do remember one moment when the emotion was just so overwhelming that I did go, I did. But just one little moment. That was it. I didn't do it the whole movie, as far as I could tell. So it's really a great movie. And so Nora says to me, she says, well, that's what Jackie Robinson was all about, forgiveness. I was like, okay. And she said, well, he had to forgive. If he wasn't willing to forgive, he wouldn't have been able to do what he did in life. She said, didn't you get that? I went, yeah, of course I did. And it blew me away, but she's right. And of course, it's the end of Jamie's song. Forgive ourselves to become all that we are. You cannot become all that you are meant to be if you hold on to anything in you that still needs forgiving. Do you all get that? So it's not just a pleasant stroll through my talk today for you. You need to take the time here and actually pull out, what do you got to forgive? What need you forgive? What must you forgive in order to be all that you are? You know, watching Jackie Robinson and what he went through, and, you know, obviously it's a movie, but I'm sure a lot of this is what he went through. To be able to go through that and still excel. And there's one scene, I don't want to talk about it because you're all going to see the movie, or I hope you all do. How do you excel at what you want to excel at in life if you're too busy holding on to that which needs to be let go of? It's really very important. On CPR this morning, someone wrote about getting stuck in. It's very interesting because we weren't talking about forgiveness, but these quotes came up just today on CPR, and I just saved them for now. So she was talking about how she had someone that she just could not forgive, period, could not forgive. And she wrote this. She said, one non-act of forgiveness was taking up so much of my oxygen that I was suffocating. Just one non-act of forgiveness can take up so much space in your head that you don't have room for what you need to be focusing on. I mean, it's that important, this idea of forgiveness. And then this quote, an enlightened heart is the heart who forgives the person whose apology you will never get. An enlightened heart is the heart who forgives the person whose apology you will never get. It's easy to forgive someone when they come and ask you for your forgiveness. It's another thing to forgive them when you know that they are steeped in what you did wrong, and yet still forgive them. And here's the deal. I forgive them for me, not for them necessarily. Love only. Love only. That means forgiveness has no place. And if I forgive, I've let go. I'm now open to all the good that's mine to receive. It's not that I'm going to forgive you to make your life better. You may still hate me. You may still hold on to this. That's not important to me. As Terry Cole Whitaker said, what you think of me is none of my business. But what I think of me is the major part of my business, is the most important part of my business. So, here's your questions today. What do you need to forgive? What do you need to forgive in your life? And I say what for a reason. What situation, what event, what history? What do you need to forgive? And then, who do you need to forgive? And if someone pops right to the forefront of your mind, you do not have to go through everything that happened in order to figure out how to forgive them. In fact, that's the shame spiral that will start you this way. If someone pops to the forefront of your mind when you say, who do I need to forgive? Just forgive them. And then, what do you need to forgive yourself for? Even more importantly, what have you perceived? What do you somehow think you have done or created? What about you do you know you need to forgive? It could be as simple as something you did yesterday. It could be as simple as something you just thought. What do you need to forgive about yourself? What would happen if you forgave everything? What would happen if you just had one of those bingo cards, the play all, where you cover all? What would happen if you forgave everything right now in this moment? If you just said, I am going to just forgive everything, without having to know what it was, or even if you were forgiven in return. What would happen if you just forgave everything? I'm done. You know what would happen? You would now be able to easily step into love only. I mean, when you think about the story of Jesus of Nazareth, and you realize what he forgave, there's a lot of that metaphor in 42. But it makes sense. I mean, if anyone came to teach us about forgiveness, it was Jesus. His story is a story of forgiveness. I mean, that's maybe I can't imagine anything else being done to me worse than that. And yet he forgave. So, the title of my talk today is Forgive and Remember. We always talk about forgive and forget. But the problem with forgive and forget is when you forgive and forget, you're going to have something else to forgive later. Because you're going to forget about it. And then it's going to happen again and you're going to have to forgive it again. So, forgive and remember. But there's two parts to remember. First, forgive and remember to forgive again. Remember to continue forgiving. It's not, I forgive this, don't do it again. I have a limit. I can only forgive you once for this. If you do it again, that's it. No, it's forgive. Forgive and forgive and forgive and forgive. But remember. Remember to forgive. And then the second part of this, don't forget what you learned the first time. As Maya Angelou says, when someone shows you who they are, believe it the first time. Now, I don't think Maya Angelou means when someone shows you who they are, believe it the first time, hold it against them for the rest of their life. I don't think she means that. I think she means when someone shows you who they are, believe it the first time, love and forgive, understand that at the heart of whatever just happened and whoever just did this, there is nothing but God and love. And then remember on this plane of action that you're not attracting that ever again. And it may mean that you may love and forgive this person and not have them to dinner again. But seriously, I'm not saying forgive and remember, like hold it in there. It really isn't. It really isn't. Remember the lesson, not the fault, not the sin, not the perpetration. Is that a word? Yes. Good, works well. So, remember the lesson. Remember what you learned. Forgive and remember. Don't forget what you know. So can you forgive someone and still remember what you learned from the experience? Can you forgive yourself? Can you forgive yourself and still remember what you learned? And then if you fall short again, forgive yourself again. Even though you think you learned it the first time. Well, guess what? You didn't. Now can you forgive that you didn't learn it the first time? It's a never-ending atmosphere of forgiveness, isn't it? Oscar Wilde says, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them as much. But Mother Teresa says, I thought I'd pit Oscar Wilde against Mother Teresa and see how we fared. Mother Teresa says, people are often unreasonable and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are honest, people may cheat you. Be honest anyway. If you find happiness, people may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today may be forgotten tomorrow. do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give your best anyway. For you see, in the end, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. And what we teach is that the very person you're looking at is God, regardless of the way they're acting. So what we're looking at is to forgive the condition and love the God. Love the truth. Forgive the condition. It was never the issue anyway. Not really. And what do you think a mind like that attracts to themselves? What do you think a loving mind that loves only, that forgives all things, what do you think an atmosphere, a consciousness like that, what do you think that attracts into your life? Love, good, opulence, prosperity, success, wealth, all these things. Unencumbered by any of the negativity you may have put in there to stop its flow in the first place. You know, when I take Mother Teresa to mean is that it was never about what you thought it was about. It never is. But maybe we'll start cultivating our minds so thoroughly that it will always be about what we're thinking about. Because what are we going to be thinking about? Love. Period. End of sentence. Holding on to resentment, anger, fear. It's just a warped understanding, because you know what's underneath resentment, anger, and fear? It's love. A warped understanding of what love is. But love is the experience that we're looking for. I love what Mark Twain wrote. Forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. Think about that. Forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. And next time, look out for the heel. Don't allow it to crush it. Be aware of it. Martin Luther King said, forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a constant attitude. In the end, the unforgiven in your heart will hold you back. That's the absolute truth. Whatever is in your heart that you have not forgiven is holding you back. And it doesn't matter if it's a person that you haven't forgiven. It doesn't matter if it's yourself you haven't forgiven. It doesn't matter if it's God you haven't forgiven, because you may still think God is this entity doing things to you. It doesn't matter. Our job and my job here this morning is to remind myself, and really just talk to myself, forgive it all. I must be willing to forgive it all. I've had something that I have had a very hard time forgiving for the last 6 months. I've struggled with it. I have just struggled constantly with it. And I have loved, and I have continued to love, and I have insisted on love, and I have insisted on forgiveness. And yet, there's still a little thing inside me that still says, I've been done wrong. You know, and I could just go into the blues so fast if I wanted to. I have forgiven it. I have forgiven the person. I've forgiven the situation. I've forgiven everybody involved in the situation, even those that are still holding on to it. I have forgiven. And it's amazing, the shift that has happened in my life because of that. So I'm not just up here telling you, this is a great idea, try it. I'm telling you, try it, it works. Ernest Holmes writes, I forgive all and am forgiven of all by all. Nothing remains in me, nothing remains in my being but love. So I'd like you to repeat after me. I forgive all, and am forgiven, of all, by all. Nothing remains in my being but love. And so if we're going to go on the journey of only love, and today's a chance, an opportunity to take the step of forgiving everything that needs to be forgiven in order to get it out of the way and to let go of it. You know what that also means? You can't talk about it anymore. You can't gossip about it anymore. You can't talk about how it hurts you anymore, because that's done, right? You've forgiven it. You can't talk about what he or she or they did anymore, even when he, she, and they are still talking about it, because they're not forgiven yet. You just can't. And when you hear yourself, there's some work to do. It's that simple, and it's that hard. because it's that simple. The theory is really simple. Love only. Get rid of everything else. That's the theory. The work, oh my God, look at all this everything else that I have to get rid of. So, are you up to it?
Yes.
How about the back rows? I absolutely love where Spirit is taking me. I am on a journey, and I feel so vulnerable, and yet I feel really good about that vulnerability, because with the vulnerability comes this sense of such power, such unyielded power, like nothing can stop me. Nothing can get in my way, because I'm only going to love, and love is the greatest power there is. And I don't know why this has happened at this point in my life. I don't know where it's come from necessarily, except to say that everything I have done up to this point has brought me to this point in time where I just know it's all about love, only love. And I can look at a lot of things in my life that were not loving. I really can. And yet I'm willing to forgive those things about myself. And in one sense, I don't care if no one else forgives me, because that's not the point. It's not the point for you to make everybody forgive you. And if you're on that journey, quit it. I really would, because it's not going to happen, A. And B, it's really only important what you think about yourself. So I invite you, as I did last week. I invited you last week to love only. I invite you this week to, as I loved what Gary said, to as quickly as possible, forgive everything. Forgive every person, every place, everything, every event. Now, once you've done that, and here you are, oh my God, I'm clean, I'm ready to go. Remember to keep doing it as life continues, because life will continue. And as Ernest Holmes said, I forgive all, I am forgiven of all, by all. Nothing remains in my being but love. And so it is. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you.